Console, online. HPG connection, online. Educational module, online. All systems, nominal.
Hello, class, and welcome to episode 15 of On the Origin of Battlemechs Podcast. Today we are talking about the Shadowhawk. Your hosts today are myself, Brent Stewart McKee, and I am joined by...
I'm Joshua.
I'm Geoff.
So today we're talking about the Shadowhawk, which, keeping in tradition of the last couple episodes, is again a unseen mech, and again we're going to kick that down the road to a episode with less models, because again this one has a whole bunch of them to talk about. So first and foremost, the design quirks are it has battle fists, improved life support, rugged, and it's ubiquitous. So the Shadowhawk is one of the Terran hegemony's growing list of diverse battlemech lineup.
This is just one of the most common and well-rounded medium battlemechs in the Inner Sphere.
Fits many roles. So the first model of the Shadowhawk appeared in 2467 with the SHD-1R, and it was developed by Lang Industries, who had up until this point been producing aerospace fighters, but now wanted a piece of that battlemech pie.
New toys mean new military contracts, mean lots of money.
And you can see that aerospace feel to the original artwork too. It almost looks like a cockpit on that torso.
Yeah, and even the torso has kind of a sloped, almost fighter section aspect to it.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that torso design. It looks awkward.
If it was a tank turret, it would be nicely sloped and it might not actually be bad. On a battle mech, I'm not sure how well that would work.
So having exceptional speed for the era and serving as an effective multi-purpose fighter, this resulted in this model still seeing service up until the Reunification Wars. In 2550, Lang issued a humiliating and expensive recall on the model due to the design issues, but many were not retrofitted and simply served out their time. It has a battle value of 851 and a point value of 22, and of course this model also has the design quirks of being a primitive.
Yep, it's got that primitive engine, primitive armor, primitive cockpit. Most of the Shadowhawks we're going to look at today have a movement profile of 5-8 and then either 3 jumping or 5 jumping. This guy, though, has a walk of 4, a run of 6, and a jump of 3. He's got a medium laser and an AC 5 with 1 ton of ammo.
I think you will note that the battle value is listed in Sana and on the actual official TRO is 841 as well. So there's a little bit of discrepancy there.
It's good to know, but the battle value system has been tweaked quietly since then, so...
See every model with stealth armor.
Yes. That recall issue Brent mentioned was because the armor plates and the myomer muscles weren't given enough clearance, and so moving the limbs caused the armor to wear on the myomer and required regular replacement of the muscles to keep them from giving out at a unopportune time.
And with only 1 ton of ammo, it's only got 20 shots. I mean, that'll last you pretty much any engagement on the tabletop, but for fiction and lore reasons, it's limited capacity. And it's also got 10 heat sinks, so it can handle that heat quite easily. You can definitely see, as we mentioned earlier with the art, the fighter pilot almost design, because the cockpit definitely has the large arc. I'm not exactly sure the term, how fighters have the oval dome that'll just come up and down. I'm not sure if there's a special term for that canopy, but
bubble canopy.
Maybe. This guy definitely has one of those. You can look all the way up.
Yeah, this wouldn't be a true bubble canopy because of all of the reinforced frames that go across it. It's be more of a glass house canopy, but yeah, it should have really good vision up, down, and to the sides.
It's also 5 tons lighter than all of its other models, which is an interesting note as a prototype, because as we mentioned in previous episodes like the Griffin, it started off 5 tons heavier and then lost 5 tons. This one, the reverse happened.
Yeah, and I could see it as easily being, hey, we have to fix this problem with the myomer and the armor. Well, if we make it a little bit bigger so there's more internal space for these things to share, we can solve that problem. But oh, hey, making it a little bit bigger adds 5 tons to the weight.
And comparing it speed-wise, armament-wise, for a primitive, it's up there.
Yeah, it's definitely a good primitive.
After the primitive had finished its redesign and refinement, we come to the next model, which is the 2H. And the 2H is from 2550. same time as that retrofit, upgrade, recall we talked about. And many historians consider this model to be the first true Shadowhawk, mostly because of the tonnage disparity between the two models. This is also despite the fact that many 1Rs served well after 2550. This guy adds some missiles to the combo with one SRM-2 in the head, one LRM-5 in the right torso. The AC-5 is still in the left torso, and the right arm still has that medium laser. And with the upgrade from a primitive engine, it gets a movement profile of 583.
This is the quote-unquote original Shadowhawk. This is the one that came with Battle Droids TRO 3025, and its 3025 technical readout entry mentions the armor plates and myomer bundle issue as well. So it wasn't a problem that was solved initially with the 2H, but as part of that refit in 2550, the rest of the 2H line no longer had that issue. It's got a Sparrow 300J life support system, widely considered to be one of the most advanced life support systems installed on a battle mech. Just fun little note from the TRO.
Game-wise, what does the improved life support system do for you?
I don't think it actually does a whole lot stat-wise, like in a regular classic Battletech game, but I would have to look up the design quirk.
I mean, the 2H changed the profile a little bit too, to sort of jack of all trades with the different brackets with the long and short range missiles as well too, didn't it?
Definitely a nice upgrade. So the improved life support in classic Battletech quirks. Units with improved life support quirk offer a significant reduction in the apparent level of heat used for checking if the pilot or operator received damage following a critical hit to the life support system. They also double as life support endurance. So it looks like they are most common in like fighter crafts and things like that.
StratOps, here we come. Because it doesn't actually tell you what it does in the game, just an idea. Improved life support. When determining damage to the mech warrior or pilot as a result of heat following a life support critical hit, treat the unit's heat level as being 5 points lower.
That seems like it would be useful in a pinch.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've ever had my life support knocked out. Maybe once in all the games of tabletop I've played.
Usually when my life support gets knocked out, so does the rest of the cockpit.
Fair, very fair. Yeah, the addition of the missiles really gives it more flexibility in a real world situation, able to provide indirect fire, kind of artillery-ish support, or direct fire, high explosive capability with the SRMs. They also kind of match up. The LRM complements that AC-5 for long-range firepower, and then the SRM-2 helps complement medium laser when you get in close and you need a little more punch.
It's got a good versatility with those two sort of bracket fights, and it's got the good mobility with the 583, sort of get a good TMM and then use the 3 jump if you need to sort of specifically get into some cover.
Yeah, and 3 jump kind of feels bad in classic Battletech because you take a bigger penalty to your targeting number than you inflict on your opponent. It doesn't actually cover a great deal of distance. But if you've played any of the MechWarrior games, especially MechWarrior Online or MechWarrior 5, you know that you don't jump nearly as much as you do on the tabletop. Jumping is not as big a deal in a more practical setting. So that 583 saves you a ton of weight that you can put to something else. And like Geoff just said, you need to get up that little cliff face or drop off of something. Having 3 points of jump is just enough to let you maneuver through some areas that a full ground movement mech can't do.
Another thing about that AC-5 is that it's on an articulated turret, which they found in the development led to it being just as accurate as if it had been arm mounted. So that's an interesting note.
Yeah, I would think it would be almost more accurate. Again, that arm uses muscles to keep things lined up, whereas that turret can have a direct physical connection to the skeleton and keep it more stable under recoil.
Just less points of articulation means it's easier to aim.
I think in the case of ejection, doesn't this count as a full head ejection as well?
I don't believe this model, but later models do.
Okay.
So it's got a battle value of 1,064 and a point value of 30. And as is tradition, every model that the Terran government makes, it also makes a royal model, which is our next one, which is the 2HB.
And the 2HB has a bit of an interesting historical note because the design competition for replacement of the Shadowhawk 2H, the SLDF, Star League Defense Force, wanted something to straight up replace the Shadowhawk 2H. It was getting old. It wasn't performing at the same level as newer designs. So we need something new. Luthien Armor Works from the Draconis Combine submitted their 60-ton Dragon design to the design competition. And when the Shadowhawk 2HB upgrade was chosen instead, the Draconis Combine got pretty upset and accused Hegemony and the Star League of spying and internal bias and
espionage.
Actually helped drive a wedge between the Draconis Combine and Star League.
This one's neat. I like it because it adds not only case, but it also has endosteel, ferrofibrosis armor, and it's got 2 streak SRMs, one in the head, one in the right torso, a LB 10X AC in the left torso, a medium laser in the right arm, and a medium laser in the left arm. Movement profile of 583 and 11 double heat sinks. This thing seems nice.
That LB 10X really moves this Shadowhawk up a category, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it's using a standard fusion engine keeps the survivability up. You know, you still only have the 3 jump, but again, in a realistic situation, that's not really a hindrance. It just feels bad on the tabletop.
That 3 jump is there for being in a pinch, not for regular mobility.
It's great on Alpha Strike. That's one reason I really like Alpha Strike. You pay a much larger penalty for jumping in Alpha Strike than you do in Classic, so you have less inducement to jump as often as possible. So the 3 jump on a Shadowhawk doesn't feel nearly as bad in Alpha Strike because most of the time you'd rather be standing still to get your bonus to shooting or using your standard movement to have no penalty while shooting.
Mm-hmm.
It does lose a little bit of that flexibility though by dropping the LRMs, so it sort of moves it water was sort of closer in Brawler.
Yeah, if only the Star League had some sort of missile launcher that would allow you to shoot both LRMs and SRMs.
I mean, ultimately, it doesn't really drop any firepower long range because it's still got 10 damage that it's outputting. It's the LRM-5 and the AC-5 that give you the 10 damage, which is exactly even to the 10x AC. You know, you lose a little bit of range on the LRMs, but you're just putting all of that damage into a single weapons platform now instead of splitting it between 2.
Yeah, I mean, the range penalty is not insignificant because I guess your AC5 and your LB10X have this basically the same range profile. So yeah, it's not a huge loss. It's a little, like Geoff said, it's a little loss in flexibility because you can't do indirect, but it does feel like this is more of a straight up frontline fighter rather than a multi-role mech.
So it's got a battle value of 1354 and a point value of 34. Next up, we have the 3H, which apparently came out in 2752, but we're going to throw to Josh on this one.
Yeah, this one took a little bit of digging. Apparently back in the dawn of Battletech, the blisters that some of these mechs came in would have a variant printed on it with alternate stats, and the 3H variant was the alternate stats that came with the Shadowhawk model. However, since those old Battle Droid minis are apocryphal, the 3H would normally no longer be a canon design. However, in a nod to that Battle Droid alternate variant, when they created Field Manual SLDF, there is one single throwaway line about the 11th Corps rejecting the Dragon because they had the Shadowhawk 3H available and it could use existing replacement Shadowhawk parts rather than needing a new logistics pipeline that like the Dragon would. So I think this is also kind of a throw to the 3025 TRO or the Primitives TRO that talks about the 2HB driving a wedge between the SLDF and the Draconis Combine. But because of that, the 3H is technically a canon design, but the design stats for it are apocryphal because they came from a now apocryphal source, those battle droid blisters. So we don't have any stats for it or any battle value or any points.
But it did technically exist.
Yes.
Well, one we do have some stats for is the 2D.
D for Davian.
And this guy's basically drops some armor and increases the close range firepower, which is a very Davian move to do.
It drops a lot of armor.
Yeah. This is not a model I would like to pilot. Let's just be honest here. I'd want a little more protection. So it's got a SRM-2 in the head and in the center torso. It's got a LRM-5 in the right torso, the AC-5 in the left torso, and a medium laser in the right arm and the left arm. And it only has 14 single heat sinks.
But that is 2 more than the Shadowhawk 2H.
That is true.
So they've stripped 4 full tons of armor. 1 for the SRM, 1 for the medium laser, and 2 for the heat sinks.
They list in Sana that this is like an ambush mech, but I still don't think I'd like to be in it because I don't think it's got that punch to do that knockout blow with the amount of weapons it's got. And it really hasn't got the speed to sort of get away in a hurry if it doesn't.
This feels like it might work in a large number of them or overwhelming force, but it's not generally something I would want to spring out of a hole and go surprise at something much larger than myself.
Yeah, I was going to say it feels a lot like a infantry support battle mech. You've got more missiles to help shrapnel enemy infantry. You've still got that AC-5, which again is technically a main battle tank weapon at this point. And you've got another medium laser. If you're not really big on fighting other mechs, the other thing it could be used for is screening against light mechs like Stingers and stuff. 5.5 tons of armor isn't a lot, but most of the light mechs of this era are rocking 1 medium laser and nothing else. So now you've got an extra medium laser and an extra SRM for more chances to score hits on those fast-moving lights. Yeah, I think this guy, to me, really feels like something you park with the infantry to provide fire support or to ward off scout mechs.
So it's got a battle value of 899 and a point value of 26. After that, we come to 2803 with the 2K, and it is considered by many in the Commonwealth to be a Griffin knockoff developed by the Draconis Combine. Despite this model would be known for its long-range firepower, making it one of the deadliest units in the Succession Wars.
The reason we have this 2D and this 2K, according to TRO 3025, is because both Davian and Kurita were able to obtain large stockpiles of the 2H from the Lang Industries factories after the fall of the Star League. So at the start of the first Succession War, when the Combine and the Sons were doing their land grabs, getting their piece of the Terran hegemony pie, they both wound up with a large number of Shadowhawks that they could refit.
Now, you say land grab, but I believe the official records say that it was a protective action undertaken to ensure the safety of the population of the planets.
Well, I mean, you're going to say that about any good land grab, right?
That's some good propaganda right there.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, it's this 2K, in my opinion, is a really smart upgrade. And yes, in a lot of ways, it is a Griffin clone, but mathematically speaking, your PPC with heat sinks is a far more efficient way to deal damage than an autocannon.
At least this guy doesn't strip out armor.
And he adds 5 heat sinks to help with the PPC's heat, so he's almost heat neutral, I think.
Let's see, so we got 12 if you're firing both things, so 2 for the LRM-5s and 10 for the PPC. You've got 17 heat sinks, so if you're going to be jumping, that would be...
You always have 3 with a Shadowhawk.
Yeah, so that's going to be 15. You're almost always going to be sinking more heat than you can generate.
It's heat neutral.
So this is like a long-range fire support mech, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a better Griffin, honestly. Because Griffins, the originals, tend to not be heat neutral because they've got the PPC, the LRM, and not enough heat sinks and too many jump jets.
So it's overkill, really, because weapon heat of 12, 14 on a run, Like, you're sinking 17.
Yep.
Definitely better to be oversynced than undersynced.
And, 1 ton of ammo, so 24 shots on LRM5.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you think about it, you got your oversynced on a Shadowhawk, which has that improved life support. So your pilot's really running comfortable in this 2K model.
So it's got a battle value of 1147 and a point value of 30. And after that, we take a bit of a jump in time and go to 3048, where we get the 5M, which was made by Earthworks in the Free World League.
M for Merrick.
Mm-hmm. This is a complete overhaul and rebuild of the Shadowhawk. It also adds endosteel to the frame, more armor, more jump jets, an extra light engine, and the number of heat sinks is reduced, but they are turned into doubles. So you're now sinking 20 heat, which is still an increase. It's got a Streak SRM2 in the head, an LRM20 in the right torso, an Ultra AC5 in the left torso, and a medium laser in the right arm. The movement profile is 585. This thing is a nice upgrade.
We're definitely seeing post-Helm memory core renaissance going into this. Not as good as a Royal, in my opinion, but definitely a good fire support Shadowhawk.
It's amazing the amount of difference that Endo Steel and XL gives you, that versatility to throw a lot more weapons in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you've gone from an LRM5 all the way up to an LRM20.
Yeah, that's a bit of a jump.
That's a massive upgrade. That Ultra's nice too.
So if you could remind me, the Ultras, you can fire multiple shots, but are you capped out unlike the rotary, or?
Yeah, so an Ultra you can fire either single shot or double shot mode. In single shot, it behaves like a regular autocannon. In double shot mode, it will jam on a 2, so double ones, and it fires 2 shots, 2 location rolls. So
Now, if it hits, both shots hit, though, right?
correct.
Not sure how I feel about the Ultra AC versus LBs. I think overall the LBs are a safer bet, but the Ultras are still nice.
Yeah, it really comes down to risk aversion, using them on classic Battletech, or how the video game represents them. I don't really like them in tabletop because that double one, unlike a rotary, you normally can't unjam an Ultra. So if it jams on your first shot, it's down for the rest of the game.
See, that I didn't know. That's good to know.
Yes, there are advanced rules in TAC Ops that allow you to unjam Ultra autocannons. The MechWarrior Online allows you to unjam Ultra autocannons. And I think in a realistic sense, Ultras are probably better for raw firepower, because I really enjoy Ultras in MechWarrior Online. They give a 55-ton mech a lot of firepower for its size.
What's the weight penalty for the Ultra compared to the normal, compared to, like, say, a rack?
So an Ultra 5 is 10 tons, and a regular 5 is 8 tons, so it's 2 tons. No, sorry, standard autocannon 5 is 9 tons. So it's a 1 ton penalty.
For a double output in damage.
Potential, yes. Your range is better on an Ultra,
By about 2 hexes.
which is not insignificant, but the standard AC5 also has a minimum range of 3.
Mm-hmm.
So like the Ultra is almost better than a autocannon 5, even if you only ever shoot it in single shot mode. The advantage to an LB5X over an Ultra 5 is you get that cluster munitions. So if you have to deal with VTOLs or hovercraft
Or infantry.
or infantry, that cluster shot really becomes useful.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just planning on fighting mechs and tanks, the Ultra is probably the way to go.
So this guy's got a battle value of 1430 and a point value of 35.
And I know there's somebody out there already yelling at me for getting the tonnage wrong on the autocannons. I was looking at the wrong line and was including ammunition weight. So the standard autocannon 5 is 8 tons and the Ultra autocannon 5 is 9 tons. So it's still a 1 ton difference, but the numbers I was quoting included ammo. And then we get the Shadowhawk R2D2. Well, just 2D2. What makes a 2 Davian 2 different from a 2 Davian?
Well, it's just basically a upgrade / retrofit of the 2Ds that came out in 3049. It upgrades the SRMs to streaks, and then basically keeps everything else the same. That's pretty much it. Does add a little bit of the armor back, which is good. Not quite to where it was before, but adding an extra 5 points here and there is going to mean the difference between life and death sometimes. So overall, not super interesting, this guy. But the streak SRM2s, of course, as we've covered before, means that you're not going to fire unless you get that lock on, which is always nice. Helps conserve ammo and heat when in a pinch.
Yeah, and I'm guessing it uses Ferrofibrous and Endosteel?
It does not. It is just the SRMs, it looks like.
Do you get an accuracy bonus with the streaks? Because I don't think ammo conservation with the 50 tons is a huge consideration.
In a way, yes. You don't get a bonus to your hit roll, but if you do hit, you don't roll to see how many missiles hit. You automatically hit with both.
So no bothering with hit tables.
Yes. So
Yeah.
you don't get an accuracy bonus up front, but you do kind of get it on the back end because you're always going to hit with 2 when you hit, rather than maybe just hitting with 1 when you hit.
Mm-hmm.
So how do they make up the weight to do this without using any other weight-saving equipment like Ferrofibrous or Endosteel? Because you've got an extra ton of armor and then an extra ton of SRM.
They've dropped the ton of SRM2 ammo, so that's 1.
They dropped a heatsink too, I think. They dropped 2 heatsinks.
So they dropped a ton of ammo and 2 heat sinks. So the upgrade of the 2D2 is going to have a battle value of 1049 and a point value of 29. So after all this time in the Inner Sphere, we are going to hop over to our first clan version of this, or at least a clan retrofit, with the Shadowhawk C. It's got a movement profile of 583. It's got Streak SRM2 clan in the head, LRM5 clan in the right torso, LB5XAC clan in the left torso, and an ER medium laser clan in the right arm. It's got that's it. There's no other upgrades. It doesn't go to clan anything else. Doesn't even upgrade to double heat sinks. It's just a weapons upgrade.
And where can this Shadowhawk C be found?
Well, it's usually found in Solama units after a chassis has been captured and retrofitted and handed off to them, as opposed to needing to upgrade them or supply them with current Omnimechs or new models. It's got a battle value of 1260 and a point value of 30.
Instead of searching master unit list for Shadowhawk, I just did SHD, and so the C wasn't showing up because it's not an SHD-C.
No, it's just a C, which they do sometimes and makes it a little weird because it is actually a retrofit of the 2H. So it should technically be a -2HC.
It should be an SHD/ or -C because it's just a clan, but they don't have the SHD on there. That's what was not seeing it.
Next up, we have the 5D in 3066, and it's the new model that is just a upgrade of the 2D. So everything you expect to see, and it's got a Streak SRM4 in the head, a rotary AC5 in the left torso, a medium laser in the right arm, and a medium laser in the left arm, a movement profile of 585, 10 double heat sinks, so it's able to handle that heat quite well.
Again, the D is for Davian, and this is my favorite Shadowhawk design. It's one of the Project Phoenix redesigns. I think it actually looks not bad. The Cobra Commander helmet looks pretty cool. But for Alpha Strike, this is hands down the best Inner Sphere medium mech for survivability and damage.
Just really holds up.
Yeah, I have not been able to find a Inner Sphere, again, Inner Sphere, not clan, Inner Sphere medium mech that can do better than it in terms of firepower and survivability. Even the Royal, which is a solid mech, does not quite match up with the Shadowhawk 5D in Alpha Strike.
So speaking of this one being a Project Phoenix redesign, and I honestly feel like while this art is not bad, the art that's shown in the 8L and 9D, which is the same design but just a different pose. When I see this mech, I think this reminds me of RoboCop. Not the original, and not in a good way.
I'm not familiar with the other artwork for the 8L and which one?
One sec, I'll throw it up in the Discord. There you go.
Oh, you mean on the record sheet?
Yes.
Yeah, that's some terrible art.
Yeah, it looks like it's trying to be too sleek, Like it's just trying too hard to be sleek.
Yeah, the 5D art, it's probably the same exact design, but the way it's presented comes straight at you with a big old rack, the Cobra Commander head.
The framing is better.
Yeah.
My objections are purely aesthetic. The stats on this thing are great. It does also have a full head ejection system, so that's neat.
I actually have taken the my Game of Armored Combat plastic Shadowhawk, cut off the gun, cut off some other stuff, put on a metal rotary autocannon, a metal SRM-4, and tweaked up a medium laser to go on the arm to give this loadout. It looks really cool in my opinion, biased, but
kit bashing generally looks sweet.
The 5D, I mean, I know we haven't really talked Alpha Strike stats, but in a world where most Inner Sphere medium mechs are doing 2 or 3 points of damage, this guy's doing 4. No long range, but it's kind of unreasonable to expect combat at long range in Alpha Strike or even classic Battletech. The Royal, which is one of the best armored Shadowhawks, has a armor value of 5 and a structure value of 5. The 5D has 6 armor, 5 structure. Like, this Shadowhawk is, and I would be happy if fans sent in some better Inner Sphere medium mechs, but for raw damage and survivability, as a straight up this is a fighter, I have not found a better Inner Sphere medium mech.
So it is the current medium Alpha Strike Inner Sphere reigning champ.
Yeah. If you want other things like active probes or ECM or stuff like that, this guy isn't your mech. But if you want firepower and survivability, the 5D is the king of the Inner Sphere mediums.
Well, if you're ramping that rotary up to 6 and you're shooting the mediums and the streaks, that's like 48 damage, isn't it?
Rate 6, if everything hits, is 30 damage. 2 medium lasers is 40 damage. And then a Streak SRM-4 is 8 points of damage. So 48 points of damage with a full alpha.
Yeah, so 48.
Like I said, this thing seems sweet. And it's got a battle value of 1684 and a point value of 39. So I think the Alpha Strike rules recognize what you recognize in it. It's good. So next up we have the 7CS in 3066. It is a Comstar design. It is heavy on the electronics. It also has endosteel, an extra light engine, and as with most Comstar mechs in this era, the factory quickly fell into the hands of Word of Blake, so you see it in both of the factions. It's got a LRM-15 in the right torso with an Artemis 4, an improved C3 CPU in the left torso, an Ultra AC5 in the left torso, an ER medium laser in the right arm, and an ER medium laser in the left arm, along with 10 double heat sinks.
So that improves C3, that's the proprietary Word of Blake one?
Comstar and Word of Blake. So a standard C3 network, you have to have a master and it can connect to 3 C3 slaves, and then you can have there's a couple ways to do it, but that master can also be connected to another master, and it maxes out at 12 mechs, one master controlling 3 lower tier masters, each of those controlling 3 C3 slaves. C3I, each C3 unit in a C3I network to connect directly with any other C3I network, but I believe it only goes up to 6. You can't actually get 12 with it because of the way it connects directly. It's fluffed as there isn't enough bandwidth for the C3I to handle more than 6 mech connection. But they're really good in the sense that there's no master for you to shut off or kill, thus bring down the entire network. So your mileage varies. Really depends which one you use, depends on whether or not you play Word of Blake or Comstar, and if that doesn't matter, whether or not you want up to 12 units in your network. Which, given the way Classic Battletech works, it's kind of unreasonable to expect to have 12 units in a network on the table, so your C3I is often better from a pure gamey min-max standpoint.
Makes sense. So it's got a battle value of 1496 and a point value of 39. And after that we come to the 7M, also in 3066, and it's built off the 5M, and it adds case.
And a light Gauss rifle.
Can't go wrong with that in my books. So the light Gauss rifle's in the left torso. It's got an LRM-15 in the right torso. It's got a Streak SRM-2 in the head and a medium laser in the right arm. Got a movement profile of 585 and 10 double heat sinks. Also has an XL fusion engine, so little more vulnerable in those side torsos.
Which sucks because you've got that Gauss rifle that can explode in that side torso. This guy, he knows what he wants to do, and that's stay way back towards the edge of the map and just snipe at people.
Mm-hmm.
And with a 5.8 can get good TMM for evasion with the range as well.
If he needs to, but again, you outrange everybody, so you really want to be playing that. I'm standing still out here at, 12 hexes or 14 hexes. You don't have anything that can really hurt me, and I can hit you with my 2 main weapons at medium range.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good direct fire support mech, because realistically with the Streak 2 and the medium laser, like, you don't want to be close if you can help it with those minimum ranges of the other weapons.
Yep. This guy's got a battle value of 1447 and a point value of 35. And this model was later acquired by the Capellans, and then they distributed it to the other members of the Trinity Alliance, which is an interesting note. So after that, we get to the 11CS, which came out in 3068. It's got a light engine, endo steel, light ferrofibrous armor, and a full head ejection system. The armaments for this guy is...
Got the LRM 15 with Artemis 4, improved C3, snub-nose PPC, and 2 medium lasers. ER medium lasers.
Mm-hmm. It's also got 10 double heat sinks.
I want to like this guy because of the snub nose, but I really can't bring myself to like this guy.
What, from the Wobby aspect?
Well, I mean, toaster worship is definitely a problem, but that snub nose and Artemis, or LRM-15 with Artemis, really want to be staying in that 7 to 9 hex range, where you're at short range for the snub and short or medium range for the LRMs. But if you are at 7 to 9 hexes, you're beyond short range for most other weapons, so C3 is not contributing to your allies targeting in a meaningful way, but you also don't want to be hanging back and sniping from your 15 hex long range on that snub nose PPC, because at that point it's only doing 5 points of damage, so it doesn't want to be sitting back and sniping either.
Yeah, that PPC really incentivizes you to close the distance.
Mm-hmm. If it had, for that tonnage, you can't do a standard PPC or an ER PPC, but you could do like an ER large laser and a heat sink, and then you would be like, okay, I have my 2 main weapons are long range, and I have C3, so I'm going to sit back and use my buddy's targeting data to snipe. But this weird, I want to be between 7 and 9 hexes, which means I can't help anybody else, and if I'm further away, I'm reducing my firepower significantly, really makes this 11CS awkward to use with the C3.
Do you reckon it would have been better off switching out the LRM for like an SRM variant and try and have it in as a close-in brawler?
Yes. If you had given it 2 or 3 SRM 6s and just rolled in up close, then it could be providing targeting data. Your snub nose feels a little bit bad at that point because you're not taking advantage of its insanely long minimum range, but at least you have a role, and that's to get in close and smash things. I still think getting rid of the C3 or moving the snub nose to some sort of large laser or ER large laser makes more sense as an upgrade. Because for that improved C3, you could drop in an ECM and more armor or something, although it's already pretty close to max armor. And then you have a really versatile mech. The 11 CS is a sign of the brain damage caused by worshipping toasters.
Well, it's got a battle value of 1700 and a point value of 38. After that, we come to our first named model. We have the 5D Sandy in 3086. And it's used by Alexander Sandy Romanoff, and they are a known associate of the Bounty Hunter. So this guy's got a tag in the head, a heavy PPC in the right torso, and a light PPC in the right arm. Movement profile of 585, along with 12 double heat sinks. I'm not a big fan of this. It feels very much like someone's personal ride that has been modified past the point where it's useful to anyone else.
I mean, why would you ruin a perfectly good Shadowhawk 5D?
5H.
Huh, that's interesting because Master Unit List says it's a Shadowhawk 5D Sandy. Sarna says it's a 2H Sandy.
The record sheet I have in front of me says 5H.
Dang Bounty Hunter, all his misinformation.
And the art for this one on the record sheet is from the Primitive.
And the TRICS says 2H as well. It's a little bit all over the shop, isn't it?
So what we have here is the Bounty Hunter's misinformation campaign coming to full fruition, thwarting our academic research. This is absolutely unacceptable.
And we should probably stop talking about it before a green marauder with gold sea bills shows up in front of our house.
Yeah. If you hear a dropship, run.
So for me, I guess this really depends on what mech is being converted. If you're taking a 5D, like Master Unit List says, my question is why? You just ruined the best Shadowhawk. If you're taking a 2H, that's actually a really solid upgrade.
Yeah, that one I can't argue with.
If it's a 5H, still a pretty solid mech. Your heavy PPC is 15 heat, 15 points of damage. Your light PPC is 5 heat, 5 points of damage. They have the exact same range profile. You've got a tag, so you can guide in semi-guided rounds from an ally mech or Arrow 4 homing missiles, which is useful. So it's got a lot of firepower. It's got a lot of, or some utility with that tag. I think it definitely feels like a sidekick mech. You've got that big hole puncher and that tag, but I don't think it's bad.
It depends what it runs with too. Like that tag could be get on for another fire support mech.
Yep.
Yeah, having a nice catapult or two staying back, that wouldn't be the worst.
But again, if it was a 5D, why? Why would you?
So it's got a battle value of 15, 17, and a point value of 31. So the 5D, speaking of, you love it so much, we get to see the next incarnation now. The 9D, it's got a movement profile of 585, a C3 slave in the head, a light autocannon 5 in the right torso, 2 MML5s in the left torso, a targeting computer in the left torso, and 1 medium pulse laser in the right arm. It's also got 10 double heat sinks, endo steel, light ferrofibrosis, and a light fusion engine.
My only problem with this guy is he's not available to mercenaries or general intersphere, which means you got to be playing
House Davian.
Davian, yeah. But if you're a Davian player, this is a solid scout mech for a C3 network.
Mm-hmm.
He knows he wants to be up close, but if you need him in a sniper role, you can do that too. Those 2 MML5s give you that flexibility, as does a light AC5.
What do you lose out going out to the light AC5?
Range. Light AC5 is 5'10", 15 for range versus 6'13", 20 for an Ultra or LBX and 6'12", 18 for a standard.
But you lose that minimum range.
Yep, which the standard has a minimum range of 3 and the Ultra has a minimum range of 2. The main reason to take it, and this is the only knock I have against the 9D, other than being Davian only, is it's only got 1 ton of ammo.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the big reasons to take light autocannons is to take advantage of special munitions like precision ammo or flechette ammo or any of the ammo types you can't take in an LBX or Ultra. So the MML5s have 3 tons of ammo between them, which lets you take 1 ton of LRM, 1 ton of SRM, and 1 ton of something else. If I was going to refit this, I'd almost want to take that 3rd ton and make it a 2nd ton of light AC5 ammo, so I carry a ton of precision and a ton of standard.
Yeah, that's fair. So it's got a battle value of 13 and a point value of 37. And after this guy, we go back across the border to the Draconis Combine and look at the 3K, which has a movement profile of 585, a C3 slave in the head, 1 MML5 in the right torso, 1 heavy PPC in the left torso, and 1 ER medium laser. It also has 10 double heat sinks, heavy ferrofibrosis armor.
I think this guy's pretty solid.
It seems like a workhorse.
Yeah, it knows it wants to be hovering around that kind of 6 hex range bracket so it can get its heavy PPC at short range and its SRMs or MML5s at medium range for the SRMs. Open a hole and then push a lot of 2 points of damage crit chances through that hole.
Mm-hmm.
What does the heavy Ferro do compared to sort of light or normal?
So ferrofibrosis gives you a different multiplier for your calculating your armor value per ton. Heavy ferro gives you a better multiplier, but it takes up 21 crit slots versus 14 for standard ferro. Light ferro gives you a slightly worse multiplier, but it only takes up 7 critical slots. Basically, heavy ferro will give you more protection than clan or standard intersphere ferro, but you take up a lot of internal structure to use it.
Mm-hmm. It's very bulky.
But it's a way to mitigate like engine crits and stuff like that because you're sort of more chance of getting the ferro.
No, you're just getting more armor points. So it doesn't really reduce your chance to get crits. It doesn't pad out crit slots.
Oh, sorry, I was thinking endo steel.
Yeah, endo steel is generally a better buy if you need tonnage.
There is a slight mitigation in that it fills the slot so you don't roll again, so it, takes up a slot, but that's super deep and nitty gritty. So it's got a battle value of 1591 and a point value of 37.
Huh, I'll have to look that up, because for some reason I thought Pharaoh and Endo were considered roll again.
No, I believe both of them are like a quote-unquote dead slot that will just absorb damage.
So it will pad your crit slots.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. I'll have to double check, because for some reason I thought it didn't help, but...
That is my understanding of the rules. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Editing note. After recording, we looked at the rules and found that Endosteel and Ferrofiborous armor do still count as a roll again, so it doesn't actually blank out a critical slot. So after that, we have the 11CS2, which apparently came out in 3076, but this one again has no information listed with it. With my research, all I could find and the summation I could come to was that it's a typo or a double listing of the 11CS.
It's a 2, so the naming convention on the 2s is it was a Word of Blake design, the 11CS, and then after the Jihad, it was a good enough design that people wanted to keep it around, but they didn't have the ability to manufacture improved C3, so they would retrofit it into something that didn't either regular C3 in most cases or just strip out the C3 altogether. So most likely it's got a standard C3 and something else, maybe an ECM or armor or another laser or something.
But if anybody has a record sheet for this one, we'd love to see it.
Master Unit List would love to see it too.
And after that, we come to the 12C in 3079, produced by Odin Manufacturing. It has a 330 XL engine that will often run hotter than its specs say it should. It's got light ferrofibrous armor, endosteel, and a full head ejection system. This guy's got one MML7 in the right torso, a heavy PPC in the left torso, and a ER medium laser in the right arm. It's got a movement profile of 694 and 12 double heat sinks.
This is an interesting mech. You said it's kind of got that ungainly art. That heavy PPC is a lot of firepower.
But it's definitely got the heat sinks to handle it.
Yeah? How much heat is an MML7?
4.
So 15 heat from the heavy PPC, 4 from the MML7, 4 from jumping, so 23.
It can basically sink an alpha strike without any movement.
Yeah, so it just gains movement heat when it alpha strikes. That's not bad at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then this guy, again, he knows where he wants to be. He wants to be at 6 hexes.
Absolutely. There is something to be said for knowing your role and being a specific design for a function. But unfortunately, that doesn't leave us a lot to talk about.
Yeah, the 694 it's kind of a straight upgrade over the 583 of the original 2H, which I find kind of interesting. All the other movement profile upgrades we've seen have kept the 5.8 and then bumped the 3 to a 5.
Mm-hmm.
So tabletop wise, you're not really gaining a whole lot by getting that one extra movement point of jump, or one extra jump point, because you still don't break the 5-point threshold to make your jump modifier even with your targeting number modifier.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like we talked about, that non-maxed jump is very useful in terms of kind of a real world application. Spend most of your time running, which this guy's a lot faster than his brethren, and then, oh hey, there's a little obstacle or something I need to jump down from. He's just got a little more oomph to get over those cliffs, move through that broken terrain.
A little more spring in his step.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's got a battle value of 1574 and a point value of 36. And after that, we come to our final model of the module, the 8L. It's got improved jump jets, a Guardian ECM, a Beagle active probe, and an XL engine. Can't go wrong with a Guardian ECM, in my opinion.
Yeah, this guy looks like a very utility mech.
Mm-hmm. He's got a movement profile of 587 and 10 double heat sinks to vent off the heat from the MML5 in the right torso, the plasma rifle in the left torso, the medium VSP laser in the right arm, and then it's got a Beagle active probe and the ECM suit in the left arm. So of course we've already discussed how those VSP lasers work, and they're weird. And we've discussed how the plasma rifles work, which are PPC flamethrowers. So this guy just seems sweet.
Yeah, that 587 is a fantastic movement profile. I was just having a conversation over in the Wolfnet Discord about how 7 jump kind of breaks the game and makes it unfun for the other guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this Shadowhawk 8L, if you can stomach playing as a Capellan, because it is Capellan only, it definitely ties into that. Your variable speed pulse laser, mitigate the penalty from jumping a little bit. Your MMLs, you can get up close and pummel them with that. Your plasma rifle, like you said, we've talked about how good plasma rifles are. So yeah, if you can stomach playing as a Capellan, this is a solid utility mech.
Now, I just noticed this guy also has a compact gyro and endo steel, so that's also nice to note.
Yeah, and I don't know if we've talked about compact gyros. I think we've talked about XL gyros.
Yeah, they're heavier, but they take up less critical slots, is my understanding, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Same idea, but, flip the scale. Instead, you're getting more slots, but you're losing weight.
Yeah, an XL gyro takes up 2 extra slots, and then it's like 3/4 or 2/3 the weight of a standard gyro. Compact gyro takes up 2 less slots, but weighs a little bit more. Yeah, it's interesting going into the Battlemech design. The XL gyro generally gets seen more often because it saves you weight, and in many cases, weight is really what you're trying to save.
Usually when you're designing or modifying or tweaking a mech, you have 2 bottlenecks. You have the tonnage and you have the critical slots. And most of the time, the real bottleneck is the tonnage. Whereas there's a few where the bottleneck is the critical slots, but those are the exception to the rule.
And this guy needs that extra critical slots because of all the improved jump jets. They take up 2 slots each, so twice as much as a standard jump jet, and he's got 7 of them. Plus, he's got endo steel. So he needed every bit of crit space he could get, and he had a little bit of tonnage to play with. So compact gyro.
There's a reason it puts the ECM in the arm.
Which is funny, it's got the active probe and the ECM in the arm. And so I've got this mental image of its active probe works kind of like a flashlight where it scans its arm around looking for stuff. The other nice thing about a compact gyro, I guess, is it's only 2 slots. So it's harder to get gyro hits to knock your mech out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not a terrible trade-off. And it's got a battle value of 1536 and a point value of 35. We now move on to our pilot profiles. And we're going to start off our list with Warrior Karl Jarlhelm. A fanatical citizen of the Rasalhag, he was fortunate to survive the purges in the 1st Cavalry in 3076. On Stalance in 3079, he destroyed a Shadowhawk 2C and crippled a Clint 2C while piloting a 2K. Having proved his abilities, he was requisitioned one of the first 12 Cs to come out and was transferred to the elite 1st Freeman unit. Despite his skills, it is believed that he is not fully trusted as most of the new cluster has Omni-mechs and he still has an Inner Sphere mech.
I mean,
it could just be what he's used to.
Yeah. Okay. And for the people who aren't familiar with it, when we say Shadowhawk 2C, we're specifically talking about a special clan variant and not a Shadowhawk SHD-2C, which does not exist.
Mm-hmm.
And same with the Clint 2C. It's another clan tech mech. He killed a clan tech Shadowhawk and seriously damaged a clan tech Clint in his ancient Shadowhawk 2K.
It's impressive.
Yeah. And they gave him a Shadowhawk 12C. It's kind of like, hey, you did this amazing thing in an ancient piece of crap. We want to see what you can do in a modern version of that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it would be, he's not entirely trusted, but...
It's what the TRO says.
Well, the TRO says it suggests he's not fully trusted. I think it might be the clan mentality of making the best use out of the resources. He obviously knows how to get really good results while driving a Inner Sphere Shadowhawk. Why bother giving him something that he doesn't need in order to achieve excellent results?
It's a valid argument, but you can never be too sure with the clans.
Sergeant Celestrio, one of the oldest notable pilots. Her entry was Mech Warrior Rio in TRO 3025, updated to Sergeant Rio in 3039. She's famous or infamous for her actions while part of Hansen's Rough Riders. During a combat drop over Shiloh, she shot down 2 enemy ASFs, aerospace fighters, most likely having to shed her drop cocoon early in order to be able to make those kills, which would explain why she crash landed her mech, and that crash landing cost her one of her arms. It was later replaced by a bionic arm, and she's noted for having a personality even more mechanical than that bionic arm.
And I believe now she is semi-retired and training recruits.
Yes, as of 3039.
Honestly, she reminds me a lot of Joanna from Clan Jade Falcon.
I haven't read the Jade Falcon series in 15 years, so I can't comment to that.
My memories of her are tough as nails, no nonsense, strict, and stern. So that seems to map onto Rio.
Probably maps onto a lot of mech warriors.
True. So after that we have Major Sergi Vang, also known as the Death's Head, a training instructor at the Davian...
Oh, I bet you pronounce that Mistmorn, or Meistmorn, as in fog morning, kind of a rough translation. Meistmorn?
Academy on Donavel 2. Major Vang has an accomplished career, but is probably most notably known for being one of the few to have faced off against the Black Widow and lived.
Which TRO is he from? Because he's also in TRO 3025, but he doesn't have nearly as much.
Yeah, he's in Succession Wars.
You know why he's known as the Death's Head?
Why?
Because due to the stress of his battles with the Black Widow, he's gone bald.
Well, you know what? I'd rather lose my hair to the Black Widow than my life.
Because as of 3025, he'd actually fought the Black Widow and survived twice.
Very few people can say that.
Yep, all it cost him was his hair.
And the final mech warrior on our list is a very notable one. Captain Lori Calmer Carlisle, the XO and then CO, and wife/widow of Grayson Carlisle. She's an accomplished pilot, and her Shadowhawk is nicknamed Boss Lady. She has a fear, like many mech warriors, and really like most people do, of being burned alive. She's also a founding member of the Grey Death Legion.
Yeah, and her famous Shadowhawk was probably made famous because of Grayson, because that was his Shadowhawk before he upgraded to a Marauder.
Our sources for today are Sarna, Battletech Battlemech Manual, Master Unit List, TRO Primitives Volume 1, Succession Wars TRO and Record Sheets 3085 Project Phoenix Unabridged, 3085 TRO, Historical Operation Klondike Record Sheets.
And then I used Field Manual SLDF to find the 3H, the original TRO 3025 and TRO 3039, and TRO Project Phoenix.
We are supported by our Patreons at patreon.com/on the Origin of Battlemechs. Our social media on Twitter is at Origin of Mechs. We also have a dedicated channel on the Everything Battletech Discord. Feel free to stop by and say hi. If you have any questions, requests for topics, or wish to contact us, our email is ontheoriginofbattlemechs@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, I encourage you to let your friends know about us and to leave a review. Special thanks to my friend Laura for the intro and outro. Class dismissed. Everybody have a great day.
Peace out, mech warriors.
Catch you all later.
Module complete. System standby. Would you like to load the next module?
Sorry, can I retake that?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, from the top.
Once more with feeling.